What's your secret that you won't tell anyone outside Reddit? I'm jealous of the friendships my friends have with each other. I've never felt as close to them as they do with each other. And as a 40-year-old man, I would feel childish admitting this. I just feel like an outsider sometimes, and just wish I had the same kind of bond they do. Also 40s man, and I was not proud to admit to myself, I was jealous when my closest friend finally found a girl that wasn't a total dumpster fire of a person. I knew I was going to spend less time with him, doing fun outdoor stuff, as he spent more time with his new woman. I should be happy he has found someone he might actually have a successful relationship with. I'm exactly in this same boat, but a 31-year-old woman. In high school, I felt the same way too, and it still remains now. For me currently, I just see everyone else constantly hanging out with friends, and doing all kinds of stuff in big groups, just living it up. I'm just at home, alone. I feel like I'm missing out on such an important part of life. We only get one, and I'm terrified mine will end without ever experiencing a true best friends. Sometimes, I get up in the morning, shower, get ready, and then get back into bed, and pretend to be sleeping, just so my daughter can run into our room and wake me up. She's 7, and still loves waking me up in the morning to get my day started by seeing her face first. I pray that I will never know a day that doesn't start like this. Hell yeah. Parents should remind themselves that there will be a literal last time that their kid ever wakes them up giggling, a last time that they ever pick their child up and swing them around, a last time they ever give them a shoulder ride at a parade, or play groundies at the park, or build a fort with them, and they won't know at the time that it's the last time it will ever happen. So, treasure every moment with your kids, people. When I'm feeling overworked, and don't want to deal with putting my kids to bed, or driving to school to pick them up, or doing homework with them, or whatever, I just imagine myself in 30 years, and how I'll be willing to give anything to go back in time for one more bedtime story, or drive home from school while they tell me about their day, or evening with them practicing their lines with me for the school play, or to have one more snuggle in the fort. It instantly puts everything in perspective, and brings me completely gratefully back into the moment with them. Just about every day, when I am in the car, headed to work, I genuinely contemplate just driving off and leaving everything behind. My fantasy is heading all the way to Alaska, living in a motel room, and washing dishes for work. I can't go through with it because I have people counting on me. Yes, I am in therapy. Edit, I got a message from a bot that a concerned Redditor was reaching out. I don't know who you are, but I appreciate you. I can assure you that I do not wish to harm myself. Just experiencing the call of the void. Thank you, though. You are a good person. I feel you, dude. For about a decade, I was on and off and I had this fantasy of going no contact with absolutely everyone, moving up to North Dakota, and working as a roughneck. I genuinely think that dream kept me alive, because I'd spend time thinking about how I'd make it to ND, rather than how I'd kill myself. Things are a lot better now, and I'm so happy I made it through that time. Hold on to that Alaska dream as long as you need to, my guy. You can always come back from Alaska, you can't come back from the dead. I think about a lot. I don't have any desire to do it these days, but it's constantly in the back of my mind. I would never admit to it offline anymore, since people have tried to get me 5,150 for it, even though I've stated that I'm not actively suicidal. I feel you. On good days, on bad days, it's just there like a humming buzz that I can't tune out. Hope those thoughts stop soon, friend. Maybe next time one comes in, think instead how manatees use farts to help them dive below the surface of the water. Anytime you see a manatee not near the surface, they had to let one rip. I ran in a high school track meet once, using a tampon. The entire tampon. Plastic tube and all. I was so confused on how these were in popular use, because, wow, what a pain in the ass it was trying to keep that little extendable plastic stick from falling out. Why did people like using these things? Edit, I have deep regret about the word choice of pain in the ass in this post. Tampons are not intuitive. I remember ruining so many tampons trying to figure out how to use them. I was too embarrassed to ask anyone for help. Former camp counselor here. I'll never forget the year one of our campers came up to the camp director confused and scared. because she had gotten her period, but it was only her second one, and her mom had only sent tampons, because she needed to still be able to swim, otherwise other people would know she was menstruating, and that's unseemly. The poor girl had never used one before, and was worried that her mom would be angry at her, so she refused to use the pads we had. Long story short, the camp director, another counselor, and myself, she asked for us, because she was most comfortable with us, had to take out a tampon and show her how it worked, pull up the applicator back, listen for the click, push the applicator, etc. We then had to stand outside the stalls to guard the main bathroom door and provide emotional support, because she was too scared to do it without us being nearby, and was absolutely mortified at the idea of anyone walking into the bathroom while this was going on. It was ultimately a success, but I'll never effing forget that. The areas of women's health and products have such an educational gap, and that needs to be fixed. And in the meantime, approach education with compassion, don't assume knowledge is inherent, and most importantly, don't be in a hole to your kids. My life expectancy is less than a year. My friends and family think I'm antisocial, but actually I spend most of my time in bed. I don't want to tell anyone, and I don't know why. Thank you to those who responded. Some gave me some things to think about. My brother and I had a big fallout with our dad. Years later, we were extremely glad that he reached out to tell us he had terminal cancer. We've got to spend some time with him before he was gone. I know this is not similar to your situation, but I think you might want some people around. The last time I shat myself, I was 14, and walking home from the bus. I didn't even feel it coming. It was just explosive diarrhea. To make it worse, both my parents got home early, and my dad's boss was over for a visit. Nobody outside of the four of us knows. Edit, kinda funny that my comment about the phantom explosive diarrhea is my top comment ever. About 7 years ago I got woken up to an explosive diarrhea fart in bed. It was when my spouse and I had just started seeing each other. I woke up in such a panic. I was able to slowly get up and clean the whole mess up, all while my spouse stayed asleep. I stained the sheets all the way down, through the mattress topper, to the actual mattress. I scrubbed the evidence as best I could, and tossed my shorts and underwear. I laid a towel down to go back to sleep, and when we woke up, I told them I had started my period. To this day, that's still what they believe. My mother died in childbirth. I was the child. There was a photo my dad kept on the mantle. He's got my sister hoisted up on his shoulders. He's looking out of breath and nervous. He's set the timer on the camera, and wasn't sure of the settings. My mother is stood next to him, his arm around her, and she's looking up at them, and laughing. She looks young, happy, and very pregnant. When I was about 7, I destroyed it. He turned the house upside down, looking for it. Eventually he thought it's stolen for the silver frame, toured the pawn shops, and banned me and my sister from having visitors. Honestly, I'd take that to the grave. I think the truth would kill him. I did. He died not knowing. I have told a few people, but it's limited. I am a CSA victim, and my abuser made national news twice for the video she took of us boys, not the physical abuse. Police didn't investigate properly, and when I went to make a report, 30 years after the abuse, the cop at reception was a hostile, rude, aggressive man. I walked out actually crying. The cop quit his job 2 weeks into his investigation. But that cop literally broke my soul. I don't feel strong enough to open up about my abuse, and how hard it's been being let down by police at every step. I read a lot. I wake up as early as 4 to 4:30 a.m. so I can read, or even stay up super late. Not just because I like it a lot, but because it keeps me from thinking intrusive thoughts. Ever since my mother died 5 years ago from cancer, the feeling of going into another world, if only for a moment, makes me feel secure. Not sure if that's healthy, but it's better than any antidepressant I was given that made me feel like a different person. I'm very sorry about your mother. As a person who loves reading also, it warms my heart to read this. It truly can make you feel better, sometimes. I once sat in a sauna at the gym, contemplating what to do in life. Just in one of those moments in life, where the road ahead was unclear. A man walked in, who was 30+ years older than me, and sat down. Just the two of us were there. I felt this strong urge to ask him his advice. what his regrets in life were, if he were in his 20s again, what would he do differently, etc. But my social anxiety, and general fear of men, kept me quiet. I've always regretted it. I think sometimes, life puts opportunities in our path, to learn and grow, and missing any of them, due to something like social anxiety, is such a waste. Oh my god. This hit me particularly hard. I'm super lonely. I'm an introvert by nature. I live with and care for my elderly father. I work from home. I'm single. My best friend moved across the country. I literally have no friends. I go sit at the local coffee shop occasionally, and the last 3 times, there's been a situation that presented itself, where I could have engaged with people. Like, they literally engaged with me first. I ended the conversations. Walked away. Put my nose in phone. Why? I pointed a gun at my stepmom's abusive boyfriend when he was sleeping, and couldn't pull the trigger. Good thing you didn't. You would be in jail, even if he was a piece of a shit. I pointed a gun at my mom's abusive boyfriend while he was awake and wanting to come in my house. Me and the gun said, "No entry." He was smart and turned around and walked away. A few years ago, my dad's truck was broken into, and he lost all of his rings. He had several silver rings, would take them off to drive, because the wheel rubbing on the rings was irritating. Forgot them in the truck one day, and they were all stolen. My dad is not the type to accept gifts, especially if it's a replacement for something that was lost due to his own error. Over the years, I've been slowly replacing them. I'll save up, buy a ring that looks similar to one of the old ones, and then I'll either claim I found it somewhere, or leave it for him to find. I replaced 2 by pretending I found them in the snow while out shoveling. Months later, I left one outside our front door for him to find. It makes him so happy every time one is found. I hope he never finds out I am the one leaving them, LOL. Back when we were dating, my wife found out I'd never had a surprise birthday party before. She really wanted to throw one for me, which I was okay with. Only one problem, it never worked. She'd try almost every year, try throwing surprise parties for other occasions. Each time, as she was planning stuff, I'd pick up on some discrepancy in her cover story, or pick up on something that a friend said, ask about it, and she'd be unable to cover it. Then finally, after years and years of this, she pulled it off. She was delighted and so proud that she at last managed to surprise me. She's talked about it for years, about how close I came to uncovering it. It made her so happy, and it was a lot of fun. Except what actually happened is, I finally managed to be quick enough, putting the pieces together, to stop myself, before I asked about the discrepancy in her cover story. Played dumb, pretended I had no idea. Acted surprised, when the day came. She will never know. My mother collects decorative elephants. I write porn for a living. I will never tell her that the Christmas present she got from me one year, the pride of her collection, was the result of me putting out a particularly filthy story that sold a lot better than I was expecting. I definitely won't tell her that I have been mentally referring to it as the buckachiderm this whole time. My dad bought me an expensive hideous piece of jewelry when I had each of my babies. I pawned them, but tell him they were in a box that was stolen out of my storage unit. I felt guilty about it, until I remind myself, he kicked me out a couple months after turning 18. Came home to all my things in the driveway, and all the locks changed. And I'm an only child. He's lucky I even speak to him still. You're 100% correct. He is lucky. My mom did a similar thing. No locks changed, or things in the driveway, but aggressively kicked out, about 6 months after I turned 18. I often think, 8 years later, that she's so lucky. I call her once a month. I remember so many times that I thought, I'm never letting this woman meet my children. I pooped in my pants at school once. I pooped in the public shower on a school camping trip. Had to pick it up with my hands, and put it in my sock, and threw it in the bushes later. Everyone immediately was like, oh, what smells like shit? Did someone shit? I was dead silent. A co-worker told a pretty funny story about shitting themselves. He left work early because of feeling sick to his stomach. He was 10 minutes from his driveway when bubble guts hit. He lives pretty rural, and stopped on the side of the 2-lane road and saw a bridge with some cover. Stopped and made a mad dash for it. Said, he got down there and painted the walls of this culvert. He's in a state park, mind you. The culvert was part of a small river that connected on each side, which was a popular place for kayakers. And wouldn't you know it, a couple kayakers were stopped and had watched him blow ass all over the place. When he turned around, he was wiping his ass with his underwear, making eye contact with these kayakers. He said he finished wiping and pulled his pants up and ran back to his car, leaving his dirty shit underwater on the side of the road. Said he never drove somewhere faster than he did that afternoon. I don't like the name we picked for our daughter. It's a classic name that works well where we live and with her brother's name. I don't hate it by all means, but I would have wanted a different name. I couldn't bring myself to tell my partner, because it is his favorite name of all time, and he agreed to my favorite name for our son. I am about to pop, and at times, I think I have not delivered already, because I am not ready to accept her name. Edit, I probably should delete the comment, as it's not a secret anymore. I sat down with my partner and told him that I don't really like the name we choose for our daughter. We had a long talk about it. He had similar feelings with our son, and didn't say anything, as he knew it was my favorite name. But he also said the name really grew on him, so no regrets there. We agreed on waiting until she is here, and look how I feel about her being called by that name. If I really can't roll with it, we will look into different options and use that name as a middle name. We agreed on a different one for family reasons, but it isn't that important to us. Honestly, just talking to him about my doubts is making me feel a lot better. Ironically, I now have the feeling the name will grow on me, lol. Pregnancy hormones are wild, and all the good stories about names growing on people really helped as well. Thanks for everyone's advice. Honestly, your best bet is to just be honest, even if you ultimately decide to stick with the name. When my wife and I were having our second kid, we had settled on the name James. Not long after, I changed my mind on it. About a month before he was born, I finally worked up the courage to tell her, I've got to level with you here, I know it's what we agreed on, but I effing hate James. She responded with, oh, thank effing God. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you for a month. We'd already had shit embroidered with it, and everything. I've tried to off myself several times before. I have letters hidden everywhere to my husband and my kids and my mom and siblings. I started Zoloft. Because of it, I had developed a panic disorder about 3 years ago, and no one would take me seriously when I would try to talk about it. Other than my husband, I started Zoloft for my anxiety, but in reality, I started it so I would stay alive for my husband and my children, and it's been 4 months in, and the past 2 weeks, I've actually felt happy, like excited about living, instead of the opposite. When I was training for a marathon, I was out for a run, and had sudden onset GI issues. I ran behind a bush, on someone's lawn, and had perhaps the largest shit of my lifetime. It was early morning, nobody saw me. I had to run home, with squidgy shit, and the worst swass of my life. I threw out my shorts and shirt, and had a shower. I live in Sydney, and we have an epidemic of poo joggers. They make the news every time they get caught on CCTV. As someone with GI issues myself, I will never go for a run, cause that, literal, shit, goes viral here. I have written a script that automatically generates new Google Voice numbers, emails, and various social media profiles, to harass all the people that bullied me in high school, and those who SA me 20 years ago. If they block the number, a new number is generated, and calls them every 5 to 60 minutes, randomly. Email-wise, they get flooded by infinitely generated emails regarding bullying and SA that they have to manually block. Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Scientologists, and a bunch of other people knock on their door all the time, since they are signed onto their lists. Once a year, I'll update the information in the script if they move or change their number, but this will continue to happen to them until they die. I had an idea to contact their spouses and kids and show them all of this, but decided against it because they were not at fault for any of this. Edit, thanks for all the DMs, but I would never sell this script or add people to the list for payment. I'm in love with my best friend. I told her 2 years ago that I wanted to take her on an actual date, and she told me she just wanted to be friends. After that, it was a couple weeks of her not really talking to me, and then unfortunately, she had an accident. The accident resulted in problems partially impacting both long and short-term memory. I didn't ask if she remembered our conversation. And we, more or less, went back to the way things were, other than her telling me the same adorable stories, over and over again, multiple times a week. I really enjoy BDSM, but I can't tell my current partner, because he hates it, and I feel like he'd look at me weird, or just do it to please me, and I don't want that. Edit, you all, I'm not gonna leave him for this, because it's not like I'm dissatisfied with our sex life. BDSM is something I'm willing to sacrifice, to keep loving this person, because it's not one of my priorities in a relationship. Sexual compatibility is a big thing. Hopefully, he can meet you halfway at some point, or you'll grow to resent him. Even if he doesn't like it, but is willing to try it for you, that means something. I lost my virginity to the woman that was hired to babysit my younger brother. She was 22, I was 15. My friend lost his virginity to a 19-year-old babysitter when he was 12, and used to consider it a matter of pride. At one point, we were having a discussion about SA, and the statistics of said. He said something along the lines of, "Well, I feel fortunate that nobody in my family was SA." And I just kinda looked at him askance, and asked, "Didn't you get seduced by your babysitter when you were 12? He replies, "I don't consider that SA." I looked at him again and said, "Isn't your son the same age you were then that happened? Would you be high-fiving your 12-year-old if you found out something like that had happened to him?" And he stops, gets a haunted look in his eyes and says, "No, I would not be okay with that." The culture has definitely shifted since we were young. I hired a prostitute once. No sex had or wanted. She was surprised. I just wanted someone to talk to freely. Therapists in my area never called me back, so I got mad and got it done that way. She had an easy night, lol. She was actually a cool person once the dust settled and we figured it out. My male friends would be disappointed I didn't bang her, and my female friends would be revolted. F all of them, I'm gonna be me. This is so hard for me, but I'm going to type it. Only me and the guy that got me pregnant. The year 1985, fresh out of high school, had the whole world ahead of me. Got into the clinic and did it. It hurt, but I thought I had to do it. No matter how much I loved him. I knew I was never in a million years I was going to have a marriage with him. Now I'm 58 years old, being married with the love of my life for 34 years. Have one son that is 31, and gave me a grandson that is 10, and I have never been happier in my life. So, that is my only secret, and now everyone on Reddit knows, and, oh my god, it feels so good to finally get that off my mind and chest. Thanks if you reading my post. Soon after, my ex-wife and I separated. Two women, very close to her, also divorced from their respective husbands. I've hooked up with both, separately. Not that I went after them for revenge against my ex-wife. Our separation was very amicable. In both cases, it just happened naturally, longtime friends, going through similar times, and finding comfort in each other. But I think it would hurt everyone if it would come to their knowledge. My fiancée loves to sing around the house, but only when I'm not there, or can't hear. She has the most beautiful voice, and incredible vocal ability. My secret? When I have my headphones on, around the house, she'll sometimes call out to me, and I'll pretend I can't hear her at all. She'll often start singing, and I turn my headphones off, so I can hear her properly. It's been 4 years, and she still doesn't know that I purposely ignore her, so I can listen to her singing. This is horrible, and I can't believe I'm going to say it. My mom's longtime boyfriend was a raging alcoholic who was extremely verbally abusive. He made me fix his drinks from the time I was 15 till 30, and every single chance I got, I spit in it. Also, on 2 separate occasions, when he brought up my dead dad, who committed saying horrible things about him, I poured out half his whiskey and replaced it with my piss, and he drank every drop. No one knows, except my husband, who helped me hold the bottle, so I wouldn't spill my piss everywhere.